Hey everybody, welcome to the video. It's Thursday, June 24th, and we're breaking down this 8-game main slate that we have over on DraftKings today. And fortunately for us, on Thursdays, we typically get stuck with those split slate days, like 6 or 7 games in the afternoon, then 7 games later on in the day, which makes things a little bit hectic. But fortunately for us, that was yesterday on Wednesday, which was kind of weird. We've had that 2 weeks in a row now, but we only have 2 games early on Thursday, and you guys know I have absolutely zero interest in a slate that small, so we're going to be skipping right on by that and focus on the late slate tonight. And if you do find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Just a free and easy way to show your support to the channel if you can't become an official Patreon member. And I do want to mention, since it's the end of the month and Patreon does charge you on the first, if you want to get this last week free, if you sign up and you continue on to next month, I can hit that refund button for you, so you get an extra free week of content, but you get access into the entire data sheets, not everything I just preview here, projections, optimizer, ownership projections, rankings, cheat sheets, data sheets, Discord community, all that fun stuff. Link is down below in the description. And yesterday was pretty good. The optimizer actually had like I guess it was like the super chalk lineup today. Like everyone had it. I think there was like a 40-way die in cash games for first today. Super chalky, but the pricing's kind of been wacky so far this season, so totally understand that. But like I said, if you want to check it out, link is down below. If you want to follow me over on social media, Pennell16 on Twitter, CPen16 over on IG. But I think that's it for the plugs for the most part. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video. And as per usual, we'll start with the pitchers, then move on to the bats. And I'm sorry, guys, there is nothing in terms of cheap pitching that I like today. Like, I think there's terrible options down low, so I had zero interest in any of them. So I pretty much just listed the 4 most expensive pitchers here. I apologize for that, but I'm not going to just put cheap pitchers on here just to have cheap pitchers, but I just don't have any confidence in them. So it looks like my plan today is to spend up for pitching, and we will find some value bats, which there are some out there, so it shouldn't be the hardest thing to do, because you guys know this season that there's bats that are underpriced pretty much each and every single day. So spending up for pitchers has been easier than I feel like it's been in quite some time. I don't know what it is this season. Maybe that's just me. It might not be accurate, but my feeling this season has been that the bats have just been a little bit too cheap. Like Michael Brantley's, he's not free every week, but or every day, but he seems underpriced every single day, and there's always just good cheap options on good teams, so it shouldn't be that hard to spend up today. But anyway, Walker Buehler, our ace of the slate, $11,500. Seems a bit pricey in my opinion, but definitely the #1 overall pitching option in terms of like just a raw projection play. Very expensive though, $11,500, which I think makes him not an absolute must play, but if you got the money for him, great, because he's definitely my #1 overall play in terms of raw points. Only a 3 implied team total against him. Pretty heavy favorite here, 7K prop. The Cubs this season have definitely been okay in some spots, but they will strike out a little bit versus right-handed pitching. Looking at their splits this season, over 25.5% K rate. They do have a lot of power, 175 ISO, 95 WRC+. I don't think it's a cakewalk matchup here for Walker Buehler, but he's pitching at home. He's got around around 25% K rate this season. 25.2, doesn't really walk many guys, less than a 200 batting average given up, doesn't give up much power, about a homer per 9. I think he should be just fine. And, if Javi Baez is in the lineup, there's like 3-4 free strikeouts for him because the guy swings at everything. So if you got the money for Buehler, great. Don't think he's an absolute must play, but I would like to try to fit him in if I can do that tonight. Jose Barrios, $10,400, another guy that I feel like is a bit too expensive for the skill set that he has. Yes, he's a good pitcher, but for DFS purposes, when guys are above $10,000, I want those 30+% K rates, or at least up in the upper 20s, but both these guys are sitting at around a 25% K rate and similar to walk rate. So, I mean, it's not like they have a ton of upside, but relative to this slate, they're definitely the better pitching options today. The Twins, I think their offense is one of the better stacks tonight, so as long as Barrios can go to 5+ innings and not get shelled here, he should be able to pick up the win, which 4-point bonus could go a long way tonight. And team total below 4 against him, pretty heavy favorite. On the season, around a 3.5 xFIP, right on par with the Sierra, 25.7% K rate. Kind of similar numbers to Walker Buehler, although I'd say Buehler's definitely got the edge a little bit this season, but I mean, not too far off. The only problem is rostering pitchers against Cleveland, and I'm not being a biased Indians fan here. I know like the bottom of that order gets pretty bad at some points, but they don't really strike out too much, and strikeouts are pretty important for pitchers that are very, very expensive. And they only have a 22.5% K rate to righties this season. Now, they're not walking a lot. The power's not super high, only a 91 WRC+. I say only, that's not terrible, but I mean, it's not like it's in the hundreds, so I guess that's a positive for Barrios. But I mean, there's just not that many great pitching options today. Like, there's a lot of good bats to talk about. So when there's a lot of good bats, that means the pitching isn't that great, and that's kind of the case today. But Barrios, I mean, he's $1,100 cheaper than Walker Buehler. So if you need the price discount, I don't hate going with Barrios. 3.94 implied team total against him. That's not quite 3, but again, you get the discount there. So don't think this is a high upside matchup for Barrios, but I think he can get you like 18 plus points here, which should be okay. Nick Pivetta, $9,500. A bit of a wild card option here. I like that he's pitching in the Trop. Definitely an upgrade from Fenway Park. It's just Nick Pivetta is one of those pitchers that he's kind of scary to roster. He's gonna walk some guys. He gives up some power, but he's got strikeout upside. So that's the reason I have Pivetta here, because it's a good strikeout upside matchup versus Tampa Bay. Then he gets that park boost as well. There's no team total out yet for the Rays. If I had to guess, it'll probably end up being like low to mid 4s. I don't think it'd be in the 3s for Pivetta. I wouldn't say he's that great of a pitcher. I feel like he's a little bit overpriced here, and I keep saying that, but I don't know. I think all these pitchers I have here are a little bit overpriced. Wish they were a little bit cheaper, but his numbers this season kind of right on par with his ERA. So he's not getting unlucky. He's not getting lucky. Kind of just pitching to how he truly is. But that 27% K rate's kind of calling my name a little bit. It's higher than Barrios. It's higher than Walker Buehler. The problem is the walk rate's about double theirs, so that can always give you some issues. Plus, he's giving up over a 300 WOBA this season, 184 ISO, giving up around a little bit over a homer per 9, not too far off of Buehler and Barrios though, so I'm not like overly concerned about that or anything. But the one thing I am concerned about is that the Rays do have some pop versus right-handed pitching, 174 ISO, kind of like the Chicago Cubs. It's just I worry less with Walker Buehler than I would Nick Pivetta, especially with that walk rate. But they are striking out over a 26% clip, and that's the only positive thing I can say here about the matchup. They are striking out a little bit. I prefer lefties versus the Rays. They have considerably worse numbers. They strike out more, and the ISO is way down. But again, we have limited options here. So Pivetta, he's got some upside here, and I do like the park shift. Now, Luis Garcia, $8,700. He's actually been pitching pretty well so far this season. 4.2 implied team total against him, but he gets the nice soft matchup versus Detroit. He's on the road as well. And, you know, the Astros are looking like, once again, one of the best stacks, if not the best stack on the entire slate. The Blue Jays are in a really good spot, so are the Baltimore Orioles. But the Astros right now have a team total close to 6. We'll see if the Toronto Blue Jays happen to surpass that. I have not seen a team total out yet for them, but the Astros should definitely be able to knock around Jose Urena, fresh off a 13-run game versus the Baltimore Orioles last night, and Tom Eshelman and whoever else that bullpen. I think this guy named Mickey came in at some point, ended up doing some damage versus him, but Garcia's not been bad. 28% K rate, 204 batting average given up. Does give up a lot of fly balls, but I mean, it's a soft matchup here versus Detroit. I know they've had their good games here and there. They actually had a decent game versus the Cardinals. You guys played that afternoon slate, but versus righties this season, about a 27% K rate, 160 ISO, 91 WRC plus. They're much worse versus lefties, but I still think Garcia is playable here. Plus that strikeout upside is definitely pretty high, and he has the highest strikeout rate of any of the pitchers that we've talked about so far. I realize he's not, you know, a big name pitcher or anything, but I think he can pick up the win. 4-point bonus could go a long way if he goes like 5-ish innings, maybe 6. I mean, he's only throwing 82 pitches per game right now, but if we can get 5 or 6 innings out of Garcia, maybe gives up a run or 2, but strikes out 7 plus, and picks up the win, I think he could definitely be viable at $8,700. Imagine he'll end up being pretty chalky tonight, just because there's no really good cheap pitcher. It's always like the cheapest option that I think is looking like a good play today. But with that being said, we'll move right on over to the bats, because that's all I got to say about pitching. Not my most favorite pitching slate in the world today. Actually, I don't think it's very good at all, to be honest. I think a lot of these guys are overpriced. But anyway, we'll move on to the bats here. Start with the catcher position. And since I talked about a bunch of expensive pitchers, I thought I'd do a favor and just list a bunch of cheap catchers here. So we have Pedro Severino, $2,800, and all I did, and this is a strategy of mine if I don't have money to spend up for a catcher. Yesterday I did, because we can kind of play whoever we want for the most part. I ended up playing Gary Sanchez. He went deep. I had Sean Murphy as an option. He went deep, and I forget who else was there, but as of right now, it's probably going to be a bit of a spend-down catcher slate, and all these guys are on teams that I like quite a bit tonight. So a strategy of mine is, if there's no big standout catcher, I'll just use the cheap catcher on the team I'm stacking the most, just because they should get more at-bats than normal if their teams are scoring a lot of runs, because they'll just get more ABs, and these guys typically hit the bottom of the order, and all 3 of these guys are projected to hit dead last. So nothing's going to look too sexy here, but it's what we have to work with. Pedro Severino, looks like Anthony Kay is going to be on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays. I could see this game having the highest over-under just as a whole. I had to guess, I'd say the Orioles might have a team total of around 5. Blue Jays probably close to 6. Going up against Dean Kramer of the Orioles, and their bullpen just kind of got smashed yesterday. I think the Blue Jays are going to have a really high team total. Will not surprise me if it's above the Houston Astros at 5.76 tonight. So loving all the game. I mean, give me all the Orioles, give me all the Blue Jays. Preferably the Blue Jays. They're just a little bit harder to fit in because they're all pretty expensive for the most part. But Severino, a little bit of pop versus left-handed pitching, so don't hate go with that route. Martin Maldonado, $2,600. Like using all the Astros here versus Jose Urena. I'm going to sound like a broken record with Orioles, Blue Jays, and Astros tonight, but those are definitely some of my favorite plays on the entire slate. Maldonado is a terrible hitting catcher, but again, just getting exposure to this lineup. I do prefer lefties versus Urena, but you can play just about anybody here. Then Reese McGuire, $2,100. All three of these guys are pretty terrible hitting catchers, but they're all in pretty much the best stacks tonight, so it's just getting cheap exposure to those teams, and he's absolutely free. Dropping out of first base, we have Vlad, $6,100, right up there with Shohei Ohtani for being MVP in the AL this season. He's just been on fire. Batting 342, 333 ISO, 200 WRC plus, 1100 OPS. I don't know what his homers are right now. I think it's like 22 or 23, but he's crushing the baseball this season. Unfortunately, he's priced to the moon, so he's not easy to fit in whatsoever. So if you're rostering him, you're going to have to find several cheap bats to do that tonight, but you can certainly do that. I don't think he's an absolute lock today for cash games, but I mean, I love all the Blue Jays here, and I'm assuming their team total is going to be close to 6 today, so yeah, like all the Blue Jays quite a bit. Yuli Gurriel, $4,100. Again, just getting exposure to the Astros. He's been a guy that's hitting for a high batting average this season with a decent amount of power, and loving all the Astros. Plus, they're still on the road, so you get those guaranteed ninth inning at bats, which are always a nice boost. Then Ryan Mountcastle, $4,100. I know you had that triple donger game recently. Can't expect that again, but he does have some power upside here versus lefties. Dropping on a second base, Jose Altuve, $5,800. He had a good game last night. He's kind of been on fire for feels like a month now, but I think he had 23 points, and he's been doing great this season, batting around 300 with over a 220 ISO. So you got the high batting average, you got the good amount of power. Second base usually not a great position. It's actually kind of solid tonight. A lot of good options. So I don't think he's an absolute must play because of that price point. But if you are stacking Astros and you're going a little bit cheaper at pitcher, I definitely think Altuve is a good option. Marcus Semien, $5,400. He's also been great at second base this season. Kind of similar numbers, like very similar numbers to Jose Altuve. He just strikes out a little bit. But loving all the Blue Jays here. Don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's just as simple as that. We have power upside with Marcus Semien, and he hits for a high batting average. And Brandon Lau, $4,200. Pavetta's going to pick up some ownership tonight, so if you want some leverage, you could stack some Rays lefties here. That's going to be Pavetta's main problem, I would assume. So guys like Brandon Lau, Wander Franco, obviously he's always going to be in play until he gets priced to like $5K. And then you'll have Austin Meadows down there, and maybe a guy like Kevin Kiermaier or something like that. You could go with a Rays stack if you want to get really contrarian, but it's definitely not one of my favorite things to do tonight. But Brandon Lau should be leading off, and he's got some power upside versus right-handed pitching. Going to third base, we have Josh Donaldson, $4,900, going up against Giancarlo Mejia. Not a terrible pitcher or anything, but they do have a team total close to 5 here. Playing at home, I mean, I'm not like in love with the Minnesota Twins tonight, but some of these guys do grade out well for me. So Donaldson, and I'm not going to spoil it, but you guys can see at the bottom of your screen, Max Kepler and Trevor Larnach, I think are viable options today. You could also look at Jorge Polanco, Nelson Cruz, obviously, but I mean, they're not like super high on my list today compared to the other teams that we're going to talk about. Abraham Toro, $3,100. He continues to be free. He went deep last night. If you just want to keep rostering a cheap third baseman on pretty much the best stack like the past week now, it feels like, because they just continually get good spots here. But because they're facing the Orioles and they're facing the Tigers, really not that many good pitchers there at all, so makes sense. But if you want to just keep playing Toro, by any means, go for it. He keeps rising in price a little bit, but nothing too expensive right now. Then Luis Arraez, $2,800, should be leading off here versus the righty in Cleveland, or I guess technically in Minnesota, but the righty for Cleveland. And dirt cheap, I mean, not a great hitter or anything, batting $275, not a lot of power, but he's a guy that can get on base, and mainly just a price play for the most part. Dropping out a shortstop, Bo Bichette, $6,000, super, super expensive, but again, just getting exposure to the Blue Jays here. Carlos Correa, getting exposure to the Astros. I hate to make it sound this simple, but that's exactly what it is. I mean, would I prefer lefties versus Urena? Sure, we haven't even talked about a lefty yet. We have some coming up in the outfield there. Very lefty-heavy outfield for the Houston Astros, but I mean, obviously, it makes plenty of sense. Now, the past couple days, it's just been playing Wander Franco and then move on. But since he's nearly $4,000 now, you have to think about it a little bit. So guys like Bo Bichette, Carlos Correa come into play more so than they would be if Franco was absolutely free like he has been. But anyway, speaking of Wander Franco here, he's just continually produced. He didn't homer last night, but still put up some points. He's not 2K anymore. He's close to 4K, so you have to think about it a little bit, but you can still play him. I feel like he's underpriced. He's going to be 5K soon, so he's still at a discount in my opinion, so if you want to keep playing, go for it. It's just I feel like people are going to be playing Pivetta, so maybe a lot of people aren't going to want to play Franco, but I don't really care. I'd still play Franco today. Dropping down to the outfield, we have Jordan Alvarez, $5,400, very expensive now. I think he was like $4,500 a week ago now, but he's definitely deserved. He went deep last night. I think he went deep the game before that, and he's been crushing it this season. Over a 300 batting average, over a 200 ISO. You can sign me up for all the Astros here versus Jose Urena, especially the lefties though. Urena sucks versus left-handed bats, and all the Astros outfielders are lefties, so sign me up for this entire outfield, although it's kind of going to be hard to fit in Jordan Alvarez. All those guys were super chalky last night. Brantley was, I mean, all these guys, like pretty much everybody played all three Astros outfielders in the same lineup, which totally made sense because they were on good spots. Cal Tucker ended up returning, so he was cheap, but totally made sense. Teoscar Hernandez, $4,500. Again, just getting Blue Jays exposure. I mean, I think they're definitely going to be the best stack tonight, right up there with the Astros. Michael Brantley, he is still too cheap. I'm not sure what it is. DraftKings needs to price him around $5,000 right up there with Jordan Alvarez. I realize he doesn't have the power upside, but all the guy does is produce each and every single night. He's a high on base guy. He gets a lot of hits. He doesn't strike out whatsoever, really, for the most part. He's got a near 350 batting average this season. Like I said, not a lot of power, but a 160 ISO is not terrible. He can definitely get doubles all night long. So $4,200 still seems a bit cheap for me for Michael Brantley. So I'll continue to ride the Michael Brantley train, which I have like seems like for a week now. Reno Grichuk, again, exposure to the Blue Jays. Kyle Tucker, kind of like the light version of Michael Brantley, but definitely has some power upside. 238 ISO this season, and not a bad batting average at 270. I believe he had 16 points yesterday. George Springer, he recently came back. I mean, it's a super small sample size this season, but he does have a 400 ISO, but I like all the Blue Jays. Max Kepler, Trevor Larnach, pretty much the same plays here. Max Kepler's got a little bit more power upside, but if you're looking for cheaper outfielders, I think they both make some sense, especially Trevor Larnach, who should have a decent spot in the order below $3,000. But with that being said, guys, I think that's going to be it for the video. So I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, make sure to leave a like. It really does help the video out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me over on social media if you feel like you want to do so. And if you want to check out the Patreon, you can get this last week free here as long as you continue your patronage into the next month, just so you can get a free week of content here since the end of the month. Yeah, I think with that being said, guys, I'll get out of here. I will stop rambling, so I hope you guys enjoy your Thursday. That means it's almost Friday, so I never have anything against Thursdays. And I'll see you guys in the next video.